Welcome back to another episode of Bridge the Gap, powered by Revenue Reimagined. Today's guest is Frank Sondors, CEO and co-founder of Forge, and one of the most outspoken voices on what GTM looks like when you rebuild it from scratch with AI infrastructure. Let's get one thing clear. He's not a hype guy. He is an operator. He's building Salesforge, Mailforge, PrimeForge, InfraForge, and more. I can't remember them all, but we will talk about this, aimed at taking Outbound from a disconnected, bloated mess to a system that actually works. We're not going to talk about shit like improving your reply rates. We're going to talk about rethinking the GTM machine altogether. Frank, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I mean, you said an operator. Yeah, that's exactly what I've been up to over the last 10 years. I spent over a decade in sales, and in my last gig, I was VP sales. So I had a sales team of 50. That's where I saw that, damn, the main lever to target attainment was just hiring a bunch of reps, and I thought that was really the wrong way to look at pipeline and target attainment. I thought, why the software doesn't scale?
Wait a minute. You mean that if I want to get $10 million, I don't hire 10 reps and give them all $1 million quota and we're just going to hit $10 million? Really?
I mean, back in the days, right? You didn't have ChatGPT, you didn't have anything, right? So it felt like, humans were the main lever to actually get you to your number.
Yeah.
But today, instead of 10 reps, you can easily have 5 or 6, and you can see a lot of evidence in the Bay and a bunch of other places in the world that you have very, very small teams delivering superior revenue levels. So, it's evident in the market, but a bunch of companies are still struggling to sort of, change and transform and implement agentic systems and blah, blah, blah. So their margins are naturally lower, they're growing slower, and so on and so forth. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the things we've been talking a lot about is the productivity paradox. So people are thinking that they're being more productive, or or at least ChatGPT is telling them they're being more productive if you listen to it. So let's jump into some outbound stuff though. So let's not even warm up. Let's just jump right into it. What's the core problem of outbound today?
Well, I think if you just look at all the 3 main channels of outbound, which is email, LinkedIn, and calling, right? You are fighting against on the other side of the spectrum, the forces, right? So let's say on the cold email front, you got Microsoft and Google tightening up their belts. They're doing a lot more policing. There's a lot more anti-spam software. Essentially, deliverability is pretty poor. On LinkedIn front, that doesn't really scale, really. So there's a bunch of restrictions there. And on the cold calling front, you've got carriers also tightening their belts. So it is getting tougher, essentially. And that's quite normal, to be honest, because back in the days it was all about spray and pray, and as that's why they introduced a bunch of different restrictions, right? So it is getting tougher. So things have evolved, and most of the companies have not evolved with the changes. So they're struggling, and this is why you got a lot of people, doesn't matter on LinkedIn or somewhere else, saying the cold email is dead and everything's dead. But guess what? I meet plenty of people that make millions of dollars from cold email still today.
Everything's dead. You can't send a cold email. You can't send a cold call. Don't message people on LinkedIn. Just build it and they will come, right? We've gone to a society where the world is at inbound this week in San Francisco. Nothing against inbound. We love HubSpot, but outbound is dead. It doesn't work. We see this every day. I can tell you, I personally have bought probably 4 products this year for our business from outbound pitches that were relevant, timed properly, with a message that resonated. So outbound isn't dead. Shit, outbound is dead.
And if you can get outbound in front of Adam and get him to buy something, he's the tightest person around. So,
I mean, I've got a bunch of problems, right, as a founder, right, and I just wish that somebody would reach out to me about the problems that I have right now. But typically the type of emails I get is like, yeah, Frank, do you need some software engineers? Frank, do you need some SEO
leads?
Like,
come on, Frank. I'm gonna guarantee you leads.
Yeah, and the people that should be reaching out to me, they're not reaching out to me.
Yeah.
I got I don't know why the right vendors or service providers are not reaching out to me. I have no clue. But yeah, I've got problems, and everybody else has problems, and it's all about the right targeting, copy, the right infrastructure in place, right? So that means folks are struggling still on that front. So that's why the tech probably is not there yet, right? So we're doing our own attempt, trying to solve that. But yeah, the answer to how it's looking and actually to solve the problem is helping folks to generate the pipeline, but with the least headcount possible, because ultimately, generating the net new dollars in outbound is becoming more and more expensive over time. So we are trying to build a sort of a tech stack that allows you to reduce CAC, so cost of customer acquisition, right? So
So that brings that
the
brings an
architecture is very
interesting
different from.
that brings an interesting point into the question. Where does the current tech stack, introduce drag into speed?
So you're talking about speed in particular?
Yeah, where the current stack, like where does it introduce a drag instead of speed? Like, you have a current stack. You think it's providing
Yeah.
you speed because you're generating more outbound messages. You get this dialer running, but where's it introducing drag instead of like really creating productivity for you?
I think when you're buying a software where it's mainly anchored on humans, that's introducing drag.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. So we operate around the globe, right? So we have got customers in the US, Europe, but also in Asia Pacific as well. But guess what? My sales reps, they only do, they don't work around the clock, right? So, and I have a leaky bucket essentially when the humans are not working around the clock. So that means, and that has to do, with part of the business, right? So I am looking at systems that are able to, where we are running around the clock, right? Because otherwise I'm not generating revenue, right? So like essentially any other form of sort of, process, org, etc., where everything's anchored on purely on humans, I have a problem essentially. And I think other businesses also have typically a problem, right? So you need to, like, I'm a big believer essentially today, doesn't matter whether it's sales, finance, or other areas, that we will be working more and more with agentic capabilities, whether these are off-the-shelf solutions or you're just building something on something like NA10, right? And there's a bunch of businesses that are not doing anything, right? So they all believe it's a fad and they just don't want to transform, or they're just totally against AI and all that stuff, right? I mean, in my eyes, it's just inevitable. Because there are a bunch of inefficiencies if you're just if everything's anchored just on humans, essentially, your employees in the business. So you need to run systems in an automated fashion, either semi-autonomously or full-on autonomously, right? Some of the processes. Otherwise, you'll end up, hiring people to do those repetitive jobs, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a big play for efficiency. And I think Dale and I very much agree with you when it comes to the state of AI and where AI is going. I think that the caveat there, and I actually just posted about this morning. We talked about this last week. And I'll tie it to something Salesforce just said. So Mark Benioff just made an announcement that they laid off 4,000 customer support agents, right? Because of Agentforce. And it's all going to be AI now. Now, I've used Agentforce, and I'll take some crap for this. It sucks. And listen, whatever. All the Salesforce haters could come for me. It's fine.
You mean Matthew
The
McConaughey is
problem.
not pushing Service Force?
The problem with most AI that I'm seeing, and I would love your take on this, is in order for AI to work, you have to have good, clean, structured data. Otherwise, you are just repeating more of the bad shit. And while the Benioff thing is certainly real, I use this one a lot of, like, ChatGPT and Claude have this connector to HubSpot, and that's great in Salesforce. And you can pull all this information and instantly ask it questions that would take you hours to get. But all you're doing is vomiting up the same shit data that it would take you hours to get.
Yeah.
How do you make sure that before you start truly going AI augmented or even AI native and fully autonomous, what are the steps that you're taking to make sure that the data is clean, there's a process in place, and you're aiming for a specific outcome versus, oh, this N8N or this tool or this whatever looks cool?
Yes, I mean, you already mentioned pretty much the solution, but yeah, the problem essentially is the orchestration. So you got a bunch of people that take AI and essentially they don't know what they're doing, and then just implement it, and then you see a bunch of trash essentially out there on the web, and you're saying, okay, this doesn't work, etc., because they haven't been orchestrated correctly. So yes, you're saying the right things. It's the structured data sets are not in place, the right context is in place, etc. And it's just like the good old AI, which is machine learning, is like garbage in, garbage out, essentially, and It's same with Gen AI as well, right? So there's a problem there as well. So the way that, for example, we're looking to tackle it is where the user provides the input, essentially about the context of their own business. So you can provide a bunch of context about what your business is about. We can go and scrape your website. We can go and check out your LinkedIn profile. We can go and check out your case studies. You can upload also a bunch of documentation about your business, like a sales playbook, pricing, etc. So you need to build the right context, and you are doing what we call self-labeling within our ecosystem. So we can understand in what sort of industry are you in, who is your ICP, so ideal customer profile, etc. And that gives us structure. And when every customer does this at scale within our ecosystem, suddenly I have the data power essentially, right? So suddenly I'm able to orchestrate really well, and not because I've decided that this customer is called XYZ. No, the customers are saying, I am in this industry, this is my ICP, this is what I sell, right? So, and customers actually are able to structure multiple sort of products that they're selling within the ecosystem. So that provides me structure, that provides me the right context, and I'm able to leverage that, what I call seller context, and match that quite nicely with what we call the buyer context. So essentially, we do web crawling on every single person on the planet, based on all publicly available data sets. So the typical stuff like the website, LinkedIn, a bunch of other sources. And we're essentially doing what I would describe like the matching between the sellers and the buyers. So this is what the seller is selling, this is what the buyer, and we can definitely fetch some signals, etc., and then execute the best copy possible, right? And then there is learning mechanisms in place, right? So if we're getting responses, right, so the AI learns from that. If we're not getting responses, the AI learns from that, etc., and adjust, right? So you need to orchestrate this really well, and it's not that easy, to be honest, to do all of that, because you need to optimize these multiple different steps. And it's not just something that we optimize, for example, just for the world of email, but we're just about to launch also LinkedIn. And so you need to figure out how do you execute a second channel. You do that really well as well there, right? So it's not that easy. So hence, the first wave of AI or AI agents, doesn't matter whether Mark pushed it out, right, and Mr. Benioff, or our competitors.
Mr. Benioff, I like that.
There's a lot of bad stuff on the web and reviews, etc., that the AI just doesn't work. But trust me, like this year, I'm seeing a lot of good stuff, not just coming from us, but also from our competitors. And Mark will, Mark will also sort out his agents as well, I believe, and that will get better. And ultimately, then suddenly, humans or the employees within the organizations will be put under more pressure, right? But like my bigger recommendation is to kind of think really carefully what is it that you do right now in a company, and see if AI could replace you. If the answer is yes, the AI is very likely to replace you. AI is coming after your job for sure over the next 2 years. So be prepared. And
I don't know if Salesforce will. I don't know if Salesforce will figure it out. They needed Watson to get Einstein running. So we'll see if he can figure out the.
That's kind of funny, and I do think Mr. Benioff will be just fine. Dale, I would like you to refer to me as Mr. J from now on, instead of Adam.
Yes, old man.
Frank, you're older than me.
Mark is under pressure to
Sure.
roll it out. He has
100%.
investors breathing down his neck. And if Salesforce is not releasing agents, it looks odd. So he's just he really didn't do the necessary research and development that's required to actually put out proper agents out, right? So he just rushed it and rolled it out. People are not impressed, but I bet they will sort out all the issues and the agents will get better. So yeah.
Eventually they will. Listen, I like Salesforce. I love HubSpot. HubSpot announced over 200 different things yesterday, and not to turn this into a HubSpot promo, but like Breeze is pretty cool. It has its limitations as well. I don't think anyone's done it perfectly yet. Before we started recording, I'd said to you, like, I'm familiar with some of your products, right? Like I've used MailForge before, had a great experience with some of our clients, never used Salesforge. Looking over the website in my show prep, like we are in the process of building Outbound for us right now. And I'm like, holy shit, like this would be such a big help versus what I run our operations, but what I'm going to have to do manually that I don't want to do. And I think your product has really enhanced over, we'll call it 12 months, 6 months, certainly the last quarter. When you look at all of your products, what's the difference between AI enhanced Outbound that everyone says they have and what you are really building?
So I would say that I already mentioned this. We're big believers in the fact that within a single software environment, so that's Salesforge, you will have sales teams running their campaigns, but also in tandem you will spin up agents. So we all believe in what we call the blend, and that's what's coming across multiple orgs. So we don't believe that software should be optimized either for humans or just agentic only software, because it leads to more fragmentation. So essentially humans and AI agents have to learn how to work together. And that's ultimately what we're building, and we're doubling down on that. Think of it maybe like a Google Ads account, essentially. And within Google Ads account, back in the days, you could only do bidding, which is what's called manual, CPC bidding, essentially. So where humans set manual bids and the auction runs, and that's it. And today, you can run these fantastic automated campaigns, and all of that happens in a single environment, a single UI. And so think of it the same thing, but for outbound. We got to do inbound as well, but just think of the fact that humans can set up and do manual adjustments, etc. And then you can have a second campaign where it's fully agentic. So the AI agents decide to decide everything. When to send, what should be in the copy, what should be in the follow-up, etc. And you'll be able to do, A/B sort of, testing and see whether AI agents outperform you or not, right? So,
And all in one platform. I don't have to buy my domains from you, put them in one of the other platforms. I could do it all in one login. I spent time at Toast and we used this one throat to choke, right? I'm going to do it all, but holy shit, you better do it right.
So we're calling it like the Apple ecosystem, right? So you're going to start realizing these benefits, whether that's a single login or sharing the data from multiple apps across the ecosystem. So it's for your own benefit. So you do less sales ops kind of stuff, because there's just too much fragmentation, because there's a lot of point solutions. You have to stitch them together. And yes, you can build your stack that way, or you can go to a single vendor, single invoice, single support team that provides these critical capabilities across data, infrastructure, execution, orchestration, right? And the copy. So actually sending great emails. So the copy plays a big part.
That's the hardest part, in my opinion. Infra is certainly important. But as we talked about when we started, if the message isn't right and the message doesn't resonate, your infrastructure could be the best in the world. No one's responding. People buy from people. That's why companies who invest in meaningful connections win. The best part? Gifting doesn't have to be expensive to drive results, just thoughtful. Sondoso's intelligent gifting platform is designed to boost personalized engagement throughout the entire sales process. Trust me, I led sales for a Sondoso competitor, and I could tell you, no one does gifting better than Sondoso. If you're looking for a proven way to win and retain more customers, visit sondoso.com.
Yeah, this is why copy and targeting play crucial parts. So essentially, if your targeting is off or copy is off, that leads to more spam reports, more blacklisting, more everything, and it will kill your infrastructure very fast. But generally speaking, if somebody's using today HubSpot or Salesforce, these CRMs are not designed for any form of outbound, really. Their IPs, deliverability, etc. It's not designed for that. And if you go to the help center, they'll tell you do not do anything.
Please, for anyone listening, do not use HubSpot for outbound. It does not end well ever. I love HubSpot, not for outbound.
Yeah, in fact, just to go on that point, I was talking to one of our clients who's here, and he was in a session with HubSpot, and someone asked a question, like 100 people in the room, can we use outbound? Can we use HubSpot for outbound? HubSpot says specifically, if you use HubSpot for outbound, they can take your license away. They can
you're violating their terms.
Yeah,
they're very clear about it.
Yeah.
I wish I would record that. I would love to use that as an ad.
But people do it because, number one, I think they're cheap. Number two, because HubSpot has sequencing. People are like, sequencing outbound. Sequencing serves lots of other purposes besides cold outbound.
Yeah. So this is why, just like, HubSpot has coined the term inbound. I mean, exactly, when your lead signs up to your site, you would sequence them with a couple messages, onboarding, whatever that is, right? You would send that to them. But a lot of people think that sequencing outbound, inbound is exactly the same thing. No, I mean, on outbound, you get at least a 10x more spam reports. And these spam reports kill your IPs and deliverability and everything. So HubSpot doesn't want to do anything with having it, the IPs being damaged essentially by Google, Microsoft. So that's why they definitely stay out of that world. It can have a very negative impacts on HubSpot overall performance, when it comes to sending out emails. That's why they would definitely want to, eject you essentially from the ecosystem if you're going to be naughty. So this is why these other softwares exist, like ours, etc., where you build, you architect a specific system that is actually able to do that. And as I said, it's not easy. You kind of have to think about multiple things. But I mean, the good news is that Outbound still works, because guess what? Your alternative, if you're not going to do Outbound, is you're going to spend a ton of money with Google. And trust me, from a sort of CPA standpoint, kind of looking at acquisition costs, you won't be happy. So
no,
Frank,
we know that.
I used to work at Google back in the days.
Frank, I have a quick question for you. So you were just talking earlier about autonomous businesses, and we're doing some partnering with a company called Swan that you may or may not know, out of Israel.
Yeah, they're really great.
Yeah, and so I'm here with Amos, and we were talking about some stuff, and you talked about autonomous businesses. So how do you define autonomous businesses? Because I just had a long conversation with him yesterday about autonomous businesses and how it works. Curious, because you brought it up. What's your definition of an autonomous business? And it looks like you're moving that way from a Forge company perspective. So give us your definition of that.
So for me, an autonomous business is where a big chunk of the decision making happens based on big data lake, let's call it that way. So there's a vast amount of data that is being leveraged, not just your own first-party data, so your CRM data, whatever, but also other data sets. So think of sort of lookalike companies or like industry-level data. So essentially, a vast amount of data that's being leveraged to execute various form of activities, whether that's sending out an email, invoice reconciliation, to a bunch of other things. And that means humans stop doing a lot of the kind of manual work and admin work, repetitive work, right? And a lot of that is being executed ultimately by those systems. So humans should be doing only things that humans are really good at. And that's creative work, speaking to customers, all that stuff is super important. Humans, stick around. But all the stuff that's repetitive or humans are bad at, like writing a copy, like 90% plus of people are really, including sales, they're really bad at writing copy. So
especially sales.
Salespeople writing copy?
Yeah.
So I don't have like, kind of nice little definition, but trust me, like, I've seen the systems and I see them improving. So we've definitely seen a huge wave on what I call the text front. We have saw a massive wave on the voice front. And the next wave that's coming literally like right now is the video front.
Yeah.
We're going to start seeing, Hollywood's, quality sort of or style of movies coming out from Gen AI in the next couple, year or two. It's quite mind blowing. What
it's aligning.
I'm building as well on the video front as well, a solution as well next year for sales purposes. Because guess what? The big problem when it comes to humans and sales reps is that they're really bad at shooting a video to their prospects. So I'll be able to solve that.
Yeah.
Because the tech is there, right? The technology is there.
Well, it's the editing part. I don't know if it's the shooting of the video. People don't like to be on video, first of all. I mean, that's a statement, I know. But it's also the editing pieces become a really big pain in the neck, because who wants to send out a bad video, right? So,
the camera shy, the bad edit, whatever. But guess what? I can just take your picture off LinkedIn and I can make you say and do things in any language with any accent in front of a camera to infinite number of prospects. That's what I will be able to.
But see,
that is possible because the tech is,
But then at that point, are you really providing value, or are you just regurgitating things that you've found across? Like, now we're getting out of the world of like strategically thinking and figuring out how to collaborate, and we're getting into like saying taking over jobs. I want to just go back because on the autonomous business side, I think you and Amos from a conceptual high level perspective is the right thing. Like, we all have levels of genius. So we have lanes of genius that we're trying to work in, and we are like, it's how do you mold the AI around your level, your lane of genius? So doing the things you really enjoy doing, and then knowing and having the self-awareness of the gaps you have and what you do not enjoy doing. For example, a lot of people do not enjoy doing outbound. So like, how do you autonomously drive that to go to wrap around the human's lane of genius to make them more effective and efficient. So I think you guys are aligning in the right space.
Yeah, but there's also one thing that nobody kind of thinks about when it comes to agentic stuff. So regulations, for example. So any form of agentic systems, and for example, call calling, that's totally illegal in the US and Europe, for example. So that's where humans will still be in play, meaning reps will be doing calls. That will still be a thing. Agentic systems can be only used for inbound calling when you have consent. So you have to see how the regulations will sort of pan out in the next few years. And yeah, so you also have to think from a kind of channel lens, text, voice versus video. Like all of these, things is something that you need to orchestrate, correctly. Decision making, I believe, will be done by agentic systems more and more. Because, for example, a human does not know when's the best time to send an email, for example. How it should be crafted, like all of these things. A human has to, sometimes think for 30 minutes, for an hour to do something. And guess what? An AI agent can look at billions of lines of code in seconds and make the best possible decision for your business and for your prospect, right? To try and connect. However, one thing I definitely want to say is that as a bunch of companies like us are building a bunch of, let's call the agents on the seller front, we're also seeing agents being built on the buyer front as well, right? So, and I think where
Mm-hmm.
we are headed, is ultimately where agents will talk to agents in the future, because, two businesses or two individuals are not very good at talking to each other. So there will be essentially qualification that will be done between the seller and the buyer as we progress into the future. Before two humans will connect, over a call. And I think that's where we're headed.
That and even more so, sorry to interrupt you, but like when you get to procurement, I think procurement is a place that is severely at risk. You have people making manual decisions about what they'll accept, what they won't, what they redline and what they won't. It is going to be a bot that is like hard, like it's going to go through logic of, well, this discount will meet here, this red light, and there will be maybe a lawyer looks at it at the last second, but the days of negotiating with someone in procurement for enterprise deals, I think that's gone. That is going to be, there will be an AI procurement bot that handles your notifications or
Yeah,
your
and it's already
negotiations,
coming,
excuse
and
me.
there are a bunch of examples already in the industry. Just that it will accelerate. I think
Yeah.
the percentages are just very tiny in the world right now, where this is. We're seeing this sort of behavior. But yeah, for example, our agent, named after me, Agent Frank, when we're reaching out to a bunch of other companies, the agent responds back. We're already seeing that. We're already seeing agents on the buyer front talking to our agent, and they're talking to each other. And that traffic right now, email traffic, is less than 1%. So we definitely will see that percentage going up. And so we will need to build our systems in a way that our agent on the seller side is able to communicate effectively with the agent on the buyer side, right? And do decent job on the qualification front, so that the human on the buyer side decides actually to say yes to this op. But yeah, because I mean, ultimately there is more, more and more emails, being automated, sent out, etc. So buyers are overwhelmed and their inboxes are flooded with a lot of emails. So that's why there will be a pressure to build agents on the buyer front. The buyers will be buying these agents to manage their mailboxes. So like, I don't see why this wouldn't sort of be a reality in a year or two, and we're just going to see a percentage of email traffic going up and up, where this will be more and more agentic, essentially.
So when we look out, is this 12 months, 24 months? Like when do you see the sales org like really changing and making that shift from human agent to agent human and really seeing that shift of agents becoming first and having, significantly less human capital in a GTM org?
I mean that would mean that 50% of email traffic would be handled by agents. We're far away from that. I would say 2 to 4 years.
2 to 4 years.
That's my if I want to be ambitious. We would say that 50% of the email traffic between sales and buyers are handled by AI agents in full. The fastest will be 2 to 4 years. There's a lot of resistance by humans and organizations when it comes to AI stuff. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of political problems essentially within organizations. Why they're not kind of moving faster? They'd
Yeah.
rather have they'll rather be less efficient. Have worse operations for whatever the reasons. Right? Somebody doesn't want to introduce this because. They know that their team will be wiped out, or their jobs are, are going away, etc. There will be resistance within companies to go hard on the agentic front. So there will be resistance by humans. I can definitely see that. As a result, there will be friction, and that will result in delays. But best case, I think 2 to 4 years. But definitely worst case, I would say 10 years. So yeah. But I'm personally excited.
Dale, you got nothing on that?
No, I do think the way people are going to be built, like I was talking with this about a couple of people yesterday, the way companies are going to get built, the way people are going to get funding, like it's all going to be changing because funding will, like, it's almost like some companies can flip on the PE or VC firms because if they don't have to be human capital intensive, because you have to hire all A players and now you're becoming an autonomous company, like that flips the terms.
Yeah, but even think about VCs and the analysts that they hire, right? Why do you need a human analyst? Why wouldn't a startup that's pitching talk to an AI agent?
Yeah.
Why not? And we have examples already where somebody literally has done a form of that. So Nathan Latka,
We're very familiar.
He's built his own agent for Founder Path, right, where he's dispersing loans to startups, etc. And instead of him doing this all manually, etc., or to a bunch of automations, he's built his own bot to assess and allocate capital. I believe up to X cap, where the agent can do that. And I believe a lot of that is coming in the world of VCs.
Sure.
Because, as I said, ultimately an agent can, quickly look at billions of lines of code and do predictions and analyze markets and whatever, very fast. This will improve deal flow, conversions, reduce risk for LPs, and stuff like that. So that's just another realm. So again, super excited about that. Because, we all know, like, we're waiting for the VCs to do the due diligence and blah, 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 whatever they're doing, right? And the AI agent literally could do that. It depends on you, right? You're speaking to it, right? You're giving all the documents, the process. So I also see a huge transformation also on that front as well.
Awesome.
Couldn't agree more.
Let's wrap up a little bit with some rapid fire. 10 words or less. Let's see if we can keep it rapid and ready to go. One part of your GTM stack you'd never trade.
Well, I'm a bit biased, Salesforge, but there will be something else. And
besides your own product, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I don't want to talk about my own product. I think if there will be something else, and I know it goes against what we were talking about, but as I said, we are believers in the blend, humans plus AI agents. One thing that you can do literally right now on our website, if you go to our site, you can literally call a rep live. That piece of stack, that would never go away. I always want to give any human the ability to talk to another human. If my humans are online, they're in the office, they're ready to pick up the phone, you can literally call us. I believe that thing is not going away. So connecting people live is something.
That's very cool. I'm looking at that now. I don't think I've seen that before.
We get over 200 calls a month from that thing.
That's very cool.
We generate a ton of pipe from that thing. So what I'm doing as a founder, I'm trying to figure out how can I increase high intent traffic ultimately on my site, and then giving every user that bumps on my site the ability just to call me.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
So yeah, 200 calls is a lot of pipe that's being generated from that. So I would not trade that thing for anything else.
I love that. Frank, what's one go-to-market hire you think becomes obsolete within 3 years? Doesn't exist anymore.
I would say junior SDRs. For sure. As I said, we will definitely have a need somehow for what I call mid to senior SDRs for cold calling purposes. I don't know how do you get to a mid to senior SDR level, because juniors are kind of, they will be kind of out of jobs because, AI agents will be able to do junior jobs quite easily. But yeah, what is definitely coming is naturally these what's called GTM engineers. We call them actually sales development engineers. That's our own term that we've coined. Because we do believe that top of the funnel will become more technical. You have to know what the APIs are or how systems talk to each other, and you just knowing how to talk to humans. It's a good skill to have. But if you have folks will need to become more technical in sales. And if you're not investing, in becoming more technical, you will be potentially out of work. So yeah.
Harder problem, deliverability or personalization?
Deliverability, for sure. Like, what's the point of personalization if your email's landing spam? So
What's
think about that.
what's one cold outreach myth that just needs to die?
Say it again.
What is one cold outbound myth that just needs to die? We need to put it to bed.
Outbound is dead.
Mm.
I mean, I think one thing that's a myth is that every email needs to be personalized. It's not always the case. Reason
Good point.
being is that your targeting is so, spot on. And because if the targeting is so solid, and even though you didn't personalize your email, the person will still respond, even with the template that you've sent to them, because of superior targeting. But that is very hard to crack. I think one thing that I like to do, so I'll give an example of where I don't need to use AI because I have solid targeting. So for example, I have the ability to go after followers of my competitors. So I'll reach out to them, and I don't really need to use AI in that case because I know it's a follower base of my competitors, and that's the closest thing to knowing who are the accounts of my competitors. And so I know that they are what's called problem and solution aware. And I just need to position ourselves as being different, cheaper, faster, better, whatever that is, right? So that's an example of superior targeting where, you don't, not everything needs to be personalized all the time, right? So yeah.
I love that. Last one as we wrap it up. Dream vacation destination. Adam loves I say this one.
It's the same one every time.
Antarctica, actually.
Antarctica.
Nice.
Love it.
We haven't got that one before.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, I
Frank,
need to go to Argentina, take a boat, and then shoot off to Antarctica. A friend of mine went there, and it was quite impressive from what I've seen, and that increased my motivation levels to also do the same. So yeah.
I love it. Frank, thank you so much for joining the show. We will put links to Salesforge in the website, links to your LinkedIn profile, but it's Salesforge, FORGE.ai. I am sitting on it right now. Thanks for sharing all your knowledge, man.
Thanks for having me.